Welcome to Raisin Hail. We are live from the concourse because, as you can see behind us, if you can't see it, you can hear it. It's raining, so no field access today. We don't want to get soaking wet. But 28-27, Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Washington Commanders. We could jump right into it because I know everybody wants to know like the reaction. They want to talk about the game, so we're not going to waste time. Look, it was a winnable game for the Washington Commanders. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And I think sometimes I come off like a Commanders homer. Some of my friends even think I'm a Commanders fan, but they've been playing good football. And this was one of those games where things just didn't quite bounce their way, but they stuck in there. They hung in there, and it was a winnable game. And in the end, um, just the little things, the accumulation of little things, a missed throw here, a missed block there, just the accumulation of the little things ultimately did them in. They didn't help themselves any with the mistakes with the muff punt. But I mean, you could look on the Steelers side and say the same thing. The Steelers didn't help themselves by, for some reason, going for it on that fourth down early in the game, which again, not necessarily a call I agree with, but it's a catchable pass. It should have been caught. So there were miscues on both sides of the ball. Um, for the Commanders fans, you gotta look at this like, man, we should have had that. We should have had that. But it's a short week, man. It's a very short. As a matter of fact, I saw guys with their bags already packed in the locker room today when we were doing some of the press conference stuff. It's a very short week, quick turnaround. I wouldn't dwell on it too hard, but definitely something that if you want to take a positive away from it, they can compete. They are one of the better teams in the NFC. They're one of the better teams in the NFL. And this is the second time they went up against a team that I think we universally respect. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. If you're a gambling guy, they're up against the number and they're right there. If you're a X and O guy, you're up against it and you're right there. You just have to win the game. You just have to close the game. Young team in the sense of the playmakers that they're looking to come through, and uncharted territory for this team, for this organization over the last
little things just added up into big things. And like you said, the Olamide Zacchaeus muff punt, they were a lot better in the red zone this week.
yes,
That was something that we touched on.
no complaints
The
from me
last
there.
home game was their ineffectiveness to score in the red zone. And I don't know. I just felt like that's a terrible camera shot. That is a terrible shot. Anyways, that is a terrible shot. Anyways, I need to work on that.
Yeah, you can't be a producer in the middle of the segment.
I know. I'm sorry, but yeah, I thought that that defensively the Commanders did what they needed to do. I just think they didn't ultimately do enough to win.
Yeah, no, and I'll be completely honest with you. And no disrespect to the gentleman that was to our left doing his broadcast. The Steelers didn't play that great, man. Like if you break the game down, Russell Wilson, if he doesn't see single high, he's not throwing that pass to Mike Williams. That was the whole game. If he didn't see single high, he wasn't throwing the ball. And then when he was throwing the ball, he was just throwing it out in space, hoping somebody would run under it. That's not a real game plan. Like, and I'm not trying to bash the guy or the team, but let's not act like they came out and they played this wonderful game. He was terrible. He was absolutely terrible, and he made just enough plays, meaning like two decent throws, to where he could actually they could come away victorious. He was not accurate. He really only took the slants, which were wide open. They were giving him that, and he took those. But I don't think they ran the ball that great. I don't think they were that efficient. It was an ugly game both ways. And at the end of the day, like I said, the Steelers did just enough to win. For the Commanders, the takeaway from this for me is that you still have to execute. They will never this year in 2024, they will never be good enough to win games where they don't execute across the board. And that's every level of the game: special teams, defense, offense, right? If one of them is a little off, they can't beat themselves. Today's special teams beat themselves. Offensive line, I thought, did a decent job. For the most part, it's a tough assignment with this rotation that they have over on the Pittsburgh side of the ball. And defensively, I have no issues with how they play defense today for the most part, besides maybe disguising the single coverage. Like if you only have one safety in the middle of the field, Russ is going to throw the ball. He's not even looking. He's just going to throw the ball and hope that Pickens, or in this case, Mike Williams, gets underneath the ball. He was not accurate for the majority of that game. They had him pretty much in a box, forcing him to have to throw in a small margin. I wish I could show you guys on the field, but it was outside the hashes and within like a 5 yard radius. There was not a lot of room to work with for the receivers, and he had to be accurate, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. So I'm not. I wouldn't beat myself up too much if I'm the Washington Commanders as a team. And like Terry said, you want to win every game. Obviously, you really do. But this isn't the type. This should not be a back crushing loss in the sense of what we see with the Chicago Bears. They have not recovered from that Hail Mary. I don't think the Commanders are going to go into Thursday with any kind of baggage from this game. Most of the guys said 24 hours, watch some film, play some video games if you're Jaden Daniels, and chill, was his comments. But yeah, like, I wouldn't beat myself up too much about it. As we get further into the season, the final third of the season, when December comes around, you absolutely can't lose games like this. December is so key for playoff pushes and just to establish yourself in general for the Commanders right now. Division over all things. Take care of the Eagles. Take care of the Cowboys. Get your rest in. Don't drop anything to like the Titans and Saints squads, but definitely you've already got two up on the Giants. Eagles, Cowboys, you got to take care of that.
Yeah, looking at the defensive stats here. So they sacked Russell Wilson 3 times and they got 6 QB hurries. So, like you said, they sort of made him uncomfortable, or as uncomfortable as they could in the pocket, forced him to make some throws on the run. And, I just, I agree with your take that, obviously Russell Wilson didn't have the strongest day, but he made the passes count when they needed to count.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I thought for sure Washington had the game. They won the turnover battle. They got that fumble down at the 2
Yeah.
yard
And
line.
that was a great play.
That was a great play. They got the turnover on downs early in the first half. They got the ball back in their own territory. I think they turned that into a touchdown as well. And so, yeah, I mean, I just one of those games. I mean, I think, and we just go back. I mean, we've talked about, like, when is this team going to lose? Essentially,
Yeah.
like, when are they going to falter? When are they going to come back down to earth? And I think that they kind of had a little bit of that today. They came back down to earth some, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. It's a short week. Everyone knows it's a short week, but we'll see what happens. And I think it'll turn out well. As they turn the page, they instituted a 24-hour rule. You'll hear from Dan Quinn on the YouTube channel in his press conference. He was like, yeah, basically, the guys get one day between now and practice on Monday to just get it out of their system, turn the page. We got a key division game to worry about this week, and we're gonna have to do it on short rest.
And not to glaze over or gloss over our guy Newton, at the end of the game, like Jimmy, you can't jump off sides there. That's a
Yeah,
that's
that's a
a
that's
that's
a
a
key play.
boneheaded move, but it's not why they lost the game. And one thing I'll say is I really enjoyed the idea that everybody in that locker room had his back. Like the first person to like high five him, basically say head up, was Jaden Daniels, who's on the offensive side of the ball, right? Like guys went out their way to be like, bro, it's really not that serious. Like we'll get it next time, right? And that's the mentality that you have to have. Interestingly enough, the dynamic in the locker room. You have a set of guys who have never experienced the Dan Snyder era, right? Which was a lot of losing. And we're not going to run from that. It is what it is. And then you have this set of guys, the vets, who have experienced that. And so to hear that the young guys instinctively knew, I need to reach out to my older veterans to see how do we navigate getting over this on the mental side and turning it around in a short week. I have said all along, I love the game planning of the Washington Commanders. 1/3 ability, 2/3 coaching. I'm confident that when they come in Thursday against the Eagles, there's no excuses, right? If they lose to Philly, Philly's just the better team. But we're not going to say, oh, they're still thinking about Sunday and this and that. That's out the window. I have the utmost confidence that we'll move on from here. Uh, I don't think there's any like injuries or anything worth noting. I know uh,
I
I
guess.
got Jaden got asked about his ribs again.
Yeah.
He's fine. Luvu looked fine. I know he was nursing like a little calf strain or something. Now there was an offensive line injury.
Well, they had Tyler Biotish
Yeah,
come out. He was questionable to return. I don't think he ever came back, but
yeah.
he had an ankle injury in the first half that they updated us on later. So that could be something to keep an eye on for Thursday as well. And yeah, I mean, injury wise, it seemed like they could get B Rob, they could get Brian Robinson Jr. back by Thursday. We'll see. I guess I don't know whether they were holding him out today just because they knew it was going to be a short week,
Mhm.
and they could probably get away with holding him out for the game against Philadelphia, or whether they just think it's just bad enough. So
And
um,
we can address that. Beat winning teams still need to get over the hump like Thursday versus Philly would turn heads. I agree. You want to beat the better teams. I mean, that's always going to be the knock on anybody. Especially I'll let you deal with that. Especially especially when we're talking about moving into the playoffs. Like essentially, this is a playoff bound team, right? So yes, you want to see them eventually beat playoff contenders or other division contenders or division winning contenders, etc. You want to see them step their game up. You also need to win the games that you're supposed to win, right? So it's a balance. I would say if they don't beat Philly, I will personally lose a little bit of patience there, just because you let this one get away here. There is an argument that could be had that even that Ravens game maybe could have been a little bit closer or even pulled out in the end by the Commanders as well. But they're two upper echelon AFC teams. I don't know who the best NFC team for them would be. Maybe the Bears so far. And then at the time the Bears came in off their bye week, they were playing some pretty good football. Commanders handled them. The biggest thing here is that this game is in Philly on a short week. You went to New York and won. Can you go to Philly and win? I think we all anticipate they'll go to Dallas and win at the end of the year because Dallas is tanking. But can you go to Philly and put a scare in them? Last year, if I recall, they played them pretty tight. And I think maybe the year before that too. But they haven't been embarrassed by the Eagles per se. And this is a way better team in the last couple years. So again, I anticipate we'll see a good game. Philly is taking care of business. Last we checked against the Cowboys, I'm sure they'll be well rested. And if we want, we can roll into the keys to beating Philly. I think would be obviously finding a way to slow Saquon down. Right? If we can slow Saquon down, I still don't think they're as eager to get him involved in the passing game. I don't like the matchup of AJ Brown against anybody in the secondary. We've kind of seen how that plays out. So I would say continue to control the line of scrimmage. They did great today on the line of scrimmage. A lot of pressure. You talked about the hurries and the sacks. Keep that up. I think the Eagles' offensive line is a significant upgrade from the Steelers there a little bit. So you have to be creative, but you want to keep the pressure on Hurts and keep Saquon Barkley in situations where they don't really want to use them, like checking down in a third and long type situation, right? So win first and second down, which is kind of redundant, but primarily first down, and control the game from that aspect. Put them in a situation where they can be a little bit more predictable. You don't want Philly going in their back, right? You don't want to have to pick. Is it going to Smith? Is it going to AJ? Is it going to Saquon and give them a lot of options? I still think they can be had in that sense. On the offensive side, I mean, Daniels is a playmaker, and these guys I think are finding their sea legs. I saw him go to guys with a little bit more confidence today. Some of the rhythm was off a little bit. That comes from the pressure that the Steelers can generate. Philly's got more interior pressure, I believe, with Jalen Carter and those guys. So it presents a little bit more of a or a little different of a problem. And we've got a clip of a lineman talking about that. I think it was Coleman we talked to that kind of hit on that. I would just say keep it simple. Keep it real simple. Big plays will happen, but you got to build up to those big plays. Do not waste your first downs. All right. Don't go empty. Don't go backwards, right? Because you do not want this team, which I think their strength is being able to pin their ears back. You do not want to put yourself in a lot of third and longs, which plays right into their aggressive hands up front. So um, like I said, my fear with Philly is always the defensive line when it comes to the defense. I think their secondary is okay, but nothing to write home about. So just keep it simple. That would be my game plan. Keep it simple, nothing crazy, and work on the chemistry with McCaffrey and Diami, because you're gonna have to start as we get further into the season. You're gonna have to spread the ball around a little bit more, and in turn, those guys too need to be ready as well, because I think he missed McCaffrey a couple times, and Diami dropped a freaking wide open touchdown. So, it's kind of hand in hand. Sometimes in the long season, things are gonna happen. You can't win them all. Like I said, just I think Terry hit on this too. Guys got to go back, answer some questions about themselves, come out in Philly and be ready when their numbers call.
Yeah, I think this is a game, this is the wake up call game for them. And it's good that it was a close loss and not, they can't that the Steelers came in here and blew the doors off of them.
Yeah.
So you certainly, I think, once you get to Thursday, you obviously don't want to regress. You don't
Yeah.
want to go backwards. You don't want Philadelphia to hang 30 or 40 points on you and then have the offense sputter. I mean, I would really like to see the rushing game get more involved.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at the stats now. Austin Eckler had 44 yards on 13 carries, and that was it, basically. I mean, you had McNichols with 4 carries, 7 yards, and Jaden Daniels only had 3 carries for 5 yards. So, I
Now,
mean,
I will say, in that aspect, the Steelers were really aggressive. Like they were showing a lot of bodies in the box and stuff like that. So I don't have a problem per se with them getting away from the run game in the sense of what they've been doing in the weeks past. For the simple fact that you don't want to have Jaden thinking too much, as he's still a rookie, right?
true.
And you don't want him having to guess too much on before the snap. I saw a little bit more RPO in there. Jaden just didn't throw it a lot
Yeah.
of times, or in some cases he didn't hand it off when he should. But I think they added that for the simple fact they want to kind of keep that flexibility uh, for these uber aggressive defenses. Like I don't think Philly plays anything similar to that kind of aggression. The old Jim Johnson days, yeah, but like right now, I don't see them showing that kind of pressure. So I think we'll see a little bit more conservative effort to do the more traditional runs, not built-in RPOs. That again, that this is the eye test from the press box, so I could be wrong, but from what I observed, it felt like today there was more emphasis on RPO because, as they alluded to in the presser, like the Steelers going to play the Steelers ball, man. They were like I'm all for aggressive defense. I thought they were kind of too aggressive sometimes. And I even talked about on the deep pass. I think that was to Ertz. They were so aggressive leading up to that. When the ball was snapped, if you go back and look at the play, the safety's got he's bailing because they've been showing so much pressure. He goes to bail, but he's got his back turned to the receiver, which is the tight end at the time, Ertz. And Daniels identified that, and they kind of got out of that look because that was the drive. I think their first touchdown in the second half. But when they started actually making it obvious about the aggressive tactics, even when they were bailing, he was identifying to get the ball out and making some really big plays. So they switched it up a little. It was a little bit of cat and mouse in there. He's still a rookie. I'm okay with the game plan that they had today. I just think it came down to execution. They didn't get it done.
Yeah. So looking ahead, they've got 3 more games before the bye week. They've obviously got Thursday in Philadelphia. Then they have the Cowboys coming here to Northwest Stadium the following week on week 12. And then I believe they go to New Orleans in week 13. It's either New Orleans or Tennessee comes here. one or the other, and then the bye week, and then they get either New Orleans or Tennessee.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie to you. With basketball starting, our schedule gets kind of crazy. So I took it all the way up to the Dallas game, and then I think there's a home game after that, and then there's a road game on the 8th, because I will be at the ACC tournament or the ACC championship. I do know that. So somewhere in there, and again, we here at 106.1, we've got a lot going on. So between the Commanders and trying to keep up with our obligations for college football and basketball, we're doing the best that we can. So we'll be again all home games. I'm gonna shoot my shot and try to get up to Philly on Thursday. It's a quick turnaround for me as well, but I will do my best. We'll continue to do our best to cover as much as we can.
Yeah.
Did we have another comment? Somebody said,
Let's see. Tomlin now
"Oh yeah,
26
Mike
and
Tom was
6.
amazing at against rookie quarterbacks." And probably that's probably because he confuses them. Like it wasn't an easy assignment for the offense, man.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike Tomlin is one of those football geniuses, and you know the Steelers came out and they took care of business, and the Commanders just didn't have enough there at the end, and a crucial penalty. I think we talked about it in the game against the last home game. Who they play? I forget.
Yeah, the last home game was it was against our guys, the Bears.
That's right.
The
Yeah, yeah,
Bears.
the Hail Mary. So it was like it was one of those things where they kind of left more to be desired
Mhm.
thanks to a penalty that kind of did a drive in, or in this case did them in for the game. But yeah, hopefully they can go back and they can fix some of that stuff. But yeah, we were just looking at the schedule here. So they've got Philadelphia on Thursday, then the Cowboys and Titans come here. Then they have the bye week, and
Mhm.
then they're on the road
Okay.
at New Orleans on December 15th, and then the Eagles. They'll get the Eagles and Falcons over the Christmas and New Year's here at Northwest Stadium.
Yeah, I'll say my December takes for December, but I have I have hot takes for the Falcons for sure and the Eagles. But yeah, like I said, looking ahead to Thursday, take care of business. If you're the Commanders, just give it 24 hours. I wouldn't even give it 24 hours. Honestly, I mean, me personally, I'd probably give it 12 because no competitor wants to lose. But by all means, the most important thing, and I'll look at the camera, the most important thing is to win your division games. You have to. I think Terry McLaurin is the best at describing it, but you essentially go up 2 games when you beat your divisional opponent. And for the Commanders, the step now is to be win the division, get into the playoffs, right? Because you kill 2 birds with 1 stone right there. If you win the division, you're in the playoffs. And you get a home game, right? So let's not even think about well, we just need to get into no. We're in the territory now. Win the division. You're knocking at the door. You have to get in there and beat the Eagles.
Oh yeah, this is do or die essentially, and this matters for obviously for seeding and the race for a potential first round bye. I mean, they're still hanging around even at 7-3
Yeah.
as one of the top teams in the NFC, and so that extra bye week. I mean, especially considering how favorable the schedule gets down the stretch. You gotta do what you got to take care of business, and I think they know that, obviously.
Mhm.
They're professional athletes, but it's certainly a
Well, we would
situation.
hope that they know that, but
Yeah.
we've seen some we've seen some silly professional athletes over the last week or so.
but
But
but yeah, I'll add one more thing,
uh,
and just that, I joke that I'm a recovering Cowboys fan because I am. I think I've had enough of the Cowboys for one lifetime. And I've grown up in Richmond my whole life. And so I grew up watching the Redskins and now the football team and then now the Commanders and everything. So I've got a lot of friends and family who bleed for this team, and I'm a Washington sports fan by choice as well. I root for the Capitals, I root for the Wizards. I like the Nationals even though I'm a Braves fan, but I just it's something about seeing this team be competitive, because I think last year or 2 years ago, this game, it had probably been 70% Steelers fans.
Yeah.
And it probably would have been like 40-10 Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It would have been over in the first
That
half.
reminds me real quick too. My parting words. Can we stop saying that the Steeler fans travel well? It's not that they travel well. They're already here. They're already in all the markets, man. They're everywhere. I don't think they're actually traveling. I think they're already here. Matter of fact, I actually counted. I counted 15 cars with Steeler like stuff on it when we were coming in. Of the 15 cars, only one had an out of state tag, and it was a guy from New York. So I'm like, they're already here. Like your Steeler fans that we saw here in the stadium, if they travel from locales that are close to FedEx. They didn't come from Pittsburgh, or they didn't come from the West Coast over here. Those Steeler fans we see out in Vegas, they're just in Vegas.
Yeah.
I just think that's
they're
what it
all
is.
probably a
And
bunch of people drove up from Richmond this
Yeah, and
morning.
it's a great fan base. It's a supportive fan base. But I'm not knocking the Commanders were here and present as much as they could be. The last thing is don't give out towels to compete with the terrible towels. It's not a good strategy. I don't know who thought that would be a good idea. And this concept of seeing burgundy and gold around the stadium,
with Dan Snyder,
it didn't work.
If Dan was still in charge, they'd have probably given out gold towels.
It didn't work, but it's all good, man. Like I said, I love seeing competitive football. I'm with you. I like to see this team be good. I will never forget the 2 games I saw last year when they were not good. And parting, God bless John Keim for going 500 games.
Yeah, we can't leave without saying a special
500
shout out
games.
to John Keim.
That's dedication for this organization.
He's seen a lot of losing.
Yeah,
he's seen a lot of losing.
God bless him. I couldn't do it. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
All right. Well, I think that's where we can leave it because it's raining. We still have to drive back to Richmond and all that. So yeah, I think we're gonna put a bow on this. Obviously, a final score: Pittsburgh 28, Washington 27. The Commanders are now 7-3. They've got 2 crucial division games coming up, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, the push to the playoffs is now on, and it should be a lot of fun to watch and follow throughout this last stretch of the season. It's kind of crazy to believe, all that build up to football season that starts essentially with the draft in April, and then you're counting down, and then it's August, and then you're like, all right, great, football's here, and then you literally blink, and we're mid-November.
Yeah,
it's not even November, it's mid-November now.
My schedule and the mileage recognizes it, but my body's still like, what is going on?
I know. But yeah, so just some parting words there. And yeah, we appreciate everyone commenting and watching and tuning in. And yeah, we'll be here for every Commanders home game this season. And obviously, look us up on YouTube. I need to update our graphics to include the YouTube channel now. But if you just go to YouTube and search for ESPN Richmond, you'll find some shorts featuring some locker room video and audio that we got, as well as full press conferences from Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn. And we're going to keep working and building it and going from there. And obviously, we have Raisin Hail here on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and all the places. So
yep. All right, well, catch you guys tomorrow. If you check us out on 106.1 ESPN Richmond app, Big Al is still out for the week, so we'll have Jack will be on from 8 to 10. Our guy Mid-Major Matt will be on from 3 to 4. Bob Black from 4 to 6. I'm on from 6 to 7. The usual suspects will be there tomorrow on 106.1 ESPN.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you all soon.